Welcome to the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast. For our first-time viewers and listeners, we are glad to have you aboard. Hope you enjoy it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button. This week marks 4 weeks until we kick off the 2025 Georgia high school football season with the Corky Kell Classic. First games are on Wednesday that week, and then the first Friday night of the regular season comes in that week as well. I look forward to once again calling the play-by-play in the Corky Kell for the 9th consecutive season. It's the preeminent event nationally in high school football. And then on September 5th, I look forward to starting my 12th season calling GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. In this episode, we're going to visit with Buford coach Bryant as the Wolves get set to christen one of the most impressive high school football stadiums in the country. The $62 million, that's right, $62 million to build the stadium, 10,000 seats, Philip Beard Stadium, in what Buford fans hope will be a season in which the Wolves end their 3-year drought without a state championship. I know a lot of you people watching and listening are thinking 3 years, big deal, right? Especially those who've never won a state championship or it's been 10, 20, 30 years. But, you know, when you're at a program that's won 13 state titles in the last 24 seasons, 3 in a row without becomes a pretty big deal to the fan base. And so we'll talk to Coach App about all that and more coming up in this episode of the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast. Also, in this episode, we'll catch up on recruiting. There's been so many big-time commitments coming since my last podcast just a couple of weeks ago, including one of the biggest in the country. But we'll have more on that in just a moment. Plus, I'm going to drop my preseason rankings for the private schools and my preseason all-state team for those Class 1A, 3A private schools as well. So each podcast is going to be doing that. We had the 1As last week. We had the private schools this week. Next will be the AA. And all that's coming up right here on the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast. Before we talk to Coach App, the biggest recruiting news of the week, the month, and probably the entire year. Grayson Rams 5-star Tyler Atkinson commits to Texas. He did it on national television. Shows you what a big deal it is. He went on the Pat McAfee show and made his choice. He's rated as high as the number 1 linebacker in the country, picked the Longhorns over 50-plus offers, which included Georgia, Clemson, and Oregon. Those were the other 3 teams in his Final Four. The GPB Sports 2024 All-State Defensive Player of the Year. We've watched him dominate on Football Fridays in Georgia the last couple of seasons, including leading the Rams to the GHSA 6A state championship in his most recent game, which was last December in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And if you haven't seen him, here you go.
Parrish, oh my goodness. Heat-seeking missile named Tyler Atkinson with the TFL.
Keep your eyes on 16. This young man has a bright future just out of nowhere. Just beating the right guard, Benjamin Corhay, to the point of attack and had bad intentions when he got there. Tyler Atkinson, only a sophomore. I watched him on film, looks like a San Francisco Fred Warner.
First appearance by Flanagan at running back. He stays in the block. Parrish looking, throws it away.
What closing speed there by Tyler Atkinson. We saw him with the big tackle this time, coming from the middle of the field, looking more like a safety. It's number 16, but look at this time, look at the distance. We're talking about a guy, Marvin Parrish, who is very capable of being a running back, and you can just see the speed there, that young man.
Yeah, Atkinson was one of the many big-time prospects at the Georgia-South Carolina game last Saturday. And he's got 36 offers, the Bulldogs among them. The number 2 prospect in the state of Georgia in the sophomore class. Off the edge, unabated, Atkinson separates Parrish from the ball. And Parrish hasn't gotten up yet.
Just a big hit there by Atkinson, coming unblocked with his kind of speed and size here. As you can see, nobody takes him. And just a big hit from the blind side there on Parrish. Hopefully he's okay. You can see maybe his face mask hitting him right in the back of the neck. But good to see him up and walking off. But that young man right there has to be accounted for, as we said. One of those guys that can easily slide out and rush the passer. And only a sophomore, so he grows a couple of more inches, and that might be where you have to put him coming off the edge.
Yeah, he might be a DN.
He might be a DN.
3rd down and 3. Lewis, time, now breaks down. They got him! Tyler Atkinson, Defensive Player of the Year, Sacks Offensive Player of the Year.
We wanted to see it, but here it is right here. The dude in the middle, the speed. Look at the closing speed. Coming around the defense right there, attacking the football. What a monster, big-time player right there. Everyone's knocking at his door, believe me that.
Now Tyler Atkinson will try to lead Grayson to back-to-back state titles here in 2025. He has a mind-boggling 475 career tackles. Usually 200 is a big number. He's got 475, 79 TFL in his career, and 31.5 quarterback sacks. He has been playing since his freshman season. In my opinion, he's the best player in the country, and I can't wait to see what he does here in his senior season with the Rams, and can't wait to see him on GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. I'm sure we're going to catch up with the Rams as they defend their state title here in 2025. So we'll have more recruiting news coming up after the interview with Coach Bryant, so stick around for that as well, because Tyler's a big one. We've also had a bunch of other big-time commitments coming in the last couple of weeks. I encourage you again, please hit that like button, the subscribe button, or follow buttons as you watch on YouTube or you listen on Spotify, Apple, or iHeart. Time now to welcome in Buford coach Bryant Appling. Bryant starting his 7th season as the head coach of the Wolves, 75-8, and his 22nd season overall at Buford. Became the first head coach in Georgia High School Association history to win state championships. In his first 3 seasons, 2024 came up 1 game short of the state finals, falling to Carrollton in the semifinals. Coach, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Can't wait to get going. It's been feel like we never stopped completely, other than the dead weeks, but we're just ready to get rolling.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, can't wait to get going. I thought you guys have already been going. You've been going since January, haven't you? So it never stops, like you said. So phenomenal run for you. I mean, I've had the opportunity to be there for, a lot of the highest highs and some of the lows as well, which I guess would include, the loss to the Trojans in December in the state semifinals. As you take it all in, how do you feel about the Buford program as you start your 7th season as the head coach and your 22nd overall there at Buford?
I feel really good about where we are. I tell everybody, a team on paper always looks better in the beginning of the summer. Only time's going to tell, what you really truly end up being, because like you said, we've had the highs of the highs and the lows of the lows. I say the lows of the lows. We're still in a really, really good position when you compare it to, to the state. But around here, everybody, wants to win every game. And then, that's kind of a blessing and a curse, but more of a blessing, because you want to be at a place where expectations are high. But, in the grand scheme of things, our kids are working hard. Our seniors feel like they have something to prove, and they're showing up every day right now, and trying to bring the best out of each other, bring the best out of the underclassmen, and just continue to develop as a team. It's not all about the X's and O's at this point. Yes, we're learning them. We're trying to develop new scheme and create advantages, here and there, but it's more about how they're meshing together versus, who can really, catch a ball or block and everything. Once we get everybody on the same page and start working at a clip that's worthy of playing late in December and late in November, early December, we can get there. But you don't know that right now in July. You're just trying to mesh a team together and get them to pull in the same direction and love each other. And those are the times you get a chance to do something special when it's all said and done.
Wayne Gandy, who calls GPB Football Fridays in Georgia with me, and I have both marveled at how well you manage your talent and how, you've got an incredible roster. There's no big secret about it. You got a lot of college football prospects that come through your program that go on to, great things in college football and then the NFL, and how you manage that and keep them on the same page. It's not an easy thing to do. It's a tough job. in a lot of ways, and a lot of coaches I know out there say, well, I'd like to have that tough job. But the expectations are very, very high. I know within the hallways and within the community there at Buford, they expect you to win every game and play for the state championship and win it every year. So you got a lot. That's a blessing and a curse, as you just mentioned. You got a lot of haters out there, and I don't know why, because if they ever met you, there's no way. You're one of the nicest guys in the world, and I truly mean that with all the opportunities we've had to work with you. How do you deal with all of that personally, the expectations and those who hate you? The program, and hate's a strong word, but you know what I'm talking about. And also get the players, how the players, these are just high school kids, how you get the deal with, how you manage to get them to deal with it as well.
But, personally, it's all about my family, and praying about it on a daily basis, but my family, my wife, Lasana, and my kids, Brianna, Brendan, and Landry, they keep me grounded. My mom raised me in a different way. She's always there. She's at every game that she can be. So they keep me grounded. And they're always, whether it's what I want to hear or not what I want to hear, they're willing to tell me the truth and kind of check me at times and say, hey, it's important, but in the grand scheme of things, we're the most important thing. And that keeps me grounded on that end, just knowing that I got them to come home to, and they got my back, win, lose, or draw. They're always going to be there for me, and I'm just trying to, keep them happy and, take out the trash and do the things I need to do around the house, as well as try to win football games. But in the end with my kids, we've always, and I was lucky and blessed to work 1 year under Coach Wood, Dexter Wood, and then all, Jess Simpson, all 12 of his years. Those guys showed me a different way than I've ever seen manage a football team or manage, a program, a Friday night, a practice schedule, and all that type of stuff. And one of the main things they taught me is that, nobody's bigger than the team. You're blessed to get a chance to put the B on your chest. And if you make that the most important thing about you stepping on this field and about being in this program, everything else kind of takes care of itself. So we compete, and we've always kept that small school mentality. I got here, we were AA, and I think it was our third year in AA at that time, or second or third year. I can't remember what it was exactly. But back then you had, 65, 70 kids on the team, which is still, a good number. But some years it was a little less than that, some years a little more, but you had to have a chance to have your best players on the field at the right time. So that meant playing both ways. That way we get a chance to rotate a lot more kids, and offense, defense, and special teams. So even though we got a lot of players, whether they're old or young, we find a bunch of different ways for them to find value in being on this team. It might be a running back and they don't, touch the ball, but, 4 or 5 times a game, but usually they're fresh when they do it. So they get a chance to pop a play or two and feel good about themselves. They're also covering kicks. They're blocking kicks. They're blocking for somebody on a kickoff return and springing them for a touchdown. So when that guy makes a play, they feel like they made a play. So we just try as hard as we can in this crazy day and age to keep it a family type atmosphere, a family type approach. And they feel like the more and more we win as a team, they win, and it gives them more and more opportunities to shine and show what they can do.
Something that you told us, during one of our many conference calls before a game over the last couple of years that really stuck with me was, you played high school football at Lithonia High School, and then you've already kind of mentioned you started with Dexter there at Buford, then Jess, and then you finally got your opportunity to be the head coach, and you've made the most with that. There's no doubt about that. But one of the things that stuck with me was you talked about, letting the kids have fun. That when you were playing, you got on the bus to go play the football game, and there was nobody talks. Everybody sits there in silence. And as a head coach, you have not adopted that same kind of mentality.
Now I learned that, a little bit in college. We were loose bunch at times in college. Our coach let us be ourselves, and Coach Wood and Coach Simpson always did that too. They didn't want kids tight. They didn't want them, overthinking things. And in my opinion, that silence, when I was in high school, made you overthink things. It was more and more pressure on you to win a game, so you can kind of talk on the way home and have fun on the way home on the bus type deal. But we try as hard as we can, even though it's a high pressure deal. And we got to produce, and kids are getting pressure from 19 different directions nowadays compared to when I played with social media and the recruiting and all that type of stuff. But just trying to find a way for them to have fun and realize it is a game. It's supposed to be fun, guys. I say it to them all the time. They come out with a long face if they don't make a play. I'm like, guys in college and NFL make mistakes every day. It's not they just don't internalize it and they don't let it linger. So we try to find each and every way. Like our camp coming up this week, we stay the night at the school and for a couple nights and it's a lot of footballs, a lot of meetings, but it's much more, team building type situations, and there's competitions involved in those things as well. So play a little big man basketball, pickleball, whatever we need to do just to get them out there on the floor, dodgeball, just get them, competing with each other and having fun. Because I think the closer and closer they get, off the field, the closer they'll be and easier to communicate with each other and pull the best out of each other on the field on a Friday night.
How amped are you guys, you personally, your team, your community, to play in the new Philip Beard Stadium, which you will christen and open against Milton on national television in about 5 weeks?
Oh, they're excited. This is right there. I think they're finishing up the last, final touches over the next week or two, and probably the next week. It was close when I came by today, and we get in there this week sometime just to see the place and do a short practice just to get used to the lights and things like that. But it's definitely a buzz about it, and it's definitely being talked about everywhere I go. In the end, I'm gonna tell them like I tell everybody else, like it don't matter if you're playing at the Beard or you're playing at Tom Ryden or you're playing down in South Georgia somewhere. It's still the same amount of yards. Goalpost still in the same spot. It might be a different surface, as far as grass or turf or whatever it is. It's still a football game to be played. So all that extra, the extra brick and the extra, the bells and whistles of the place, they matter. But, throwing, catching, fundamentally sound football is what's going to win games. So once that first, whistle blows, we got to realize what the task is at hand and execute.
So does the new stadium put an even bigger target on Buford's back, if that's even possible? Because as you mentioned, there's a lot of buzz about it. In fact, I did a Google search on it, and I saw stories written about this stadium and the price tag, which, of course, you and the players have nothing to do with. That's how much it cost to build this, $62 million or thereabouts. That's at least what's reported. But I've seen stories from all over the country talking about this brand new stadium. Does that make things even or add more pressure to the season?
It adds a new dynamic. It definitely adds another one. I mean, like you said, I don't know much more we can be hated for, but I think there is going to be some sort of twist or turn to use this as a tool to put more pressure on us, so to speak. I'm not doing it. The kids are just excited to get in there. I think it's going to give them a lot more juice just because they get to play in a place like this. But I definitely think it brings a different dynamic to the amount of eyes and the amount of love and hate that we receive.
No doubt about it. I think the teams will be anxious to try to be that first team to beat you there in the new stadium. So you had a lot of success at Tom Ryden, and now you open up Philip Beard Stadium, and we look forward to being there as well at some point here during the 2025 season. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, although I'll be honest with you, and I'm sure you might say the same thing, I don't know. I thought Tom Ryden was a great stadium. It is a great stadium. I always enjoyed calling games there. I thought it was, just a great high school football stadium to be in.
It definitely is, and it's I love that place, and it's going to be weird not playing in there. The first time we play a home game, just not being a mile down the road in Tom Ryden, but it's still a blessing. It's still it's a problem that a lot of people love to have, even though it does bring a little more pressure to the equation. But I love Tom Ryden. I think it's a great venue, and it's always going to be a great venue. A bunch of memories over the last 21 years of all the games that I coached in there, whether being a head coach, a defense coordinator, or just a linebackers coach. It still holds a special place in my heart. And I was kind of talking to some coaches about a week and a half ago. We started ranking our top 10 games over the last 20 years in that place, and we were all over the place. But you start thinking about not the ones that that are in your mind because of something special that happened at the end or something special that happened at the beginning. It's the small situations where a kid that was a scout team kid all his life, and he finally made that big play that we've
Right.
been waiting for 3 years, and made a difference in the game. And the kid, when they come back with their kids now, if he's 30, 35 years old, he still talks about that, and that's his lasting memory. We've got a bunch of those, so it's definitely in the forefront of our mind, and just understand that we got to start this new place off strong, just like we finished in just like we did in Tom Riding over the last 20 years plus years.
What was number one on your list?
Ooh, I don't know. We had some good situations like Valdosta a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, we were there for that one.
Yeah, y'all were there for that one. Another one y'all were there for. My first year was Archer.
Yeah, I was
But
getting ready to say, for me personally, and
yeah,
as far as a big moment for head coach Bryant Appling, it was that Archer game, because you were still young in your head coaching career. A lot of people were wondering, did they make the right move promoting this longtime assistant coach to head coach? And I remember you had a chance. Was it overtime or was it into the game? Whatever the case was, it came down to a 2-point conversion. You decided to go for the two and won the game.
it was overtime, and I just felt like we were gassed.
Played for the win, and you
Yeah,
got
I've
it.
never been, and I kind of got this thought process from, Jess and Dexter are truly the most influential. Them and Dickie May in my coaching career. But I've always spoken to coaches, head coaches we played against, and just try to build a relationship as I've moved up and reached out to certain guys after I got the job. And Andy Dyer was one of the ones the most that I reached out to early on. But Rich McCorder down in Charlton County,
Yep.
we had those battles back in the day. And
Oh yeah,
one
every
thing I
year it
always
seemed
remember,
like, yeah.
yeah, one thing I always remember about Rich, and I met him when I was a young coach. We played him back then, but over time, seeing him at clinics, I just pick his brain, and he was one of the best coaches I've ever seen to figure out what his personnel is and change what he needed to change to fit his personnel, but also not being scared to do things like faking punts and going for two and things like that. So, and Jess was that way too. He's like, you're gonna play the game, you're gonna play to win. If you got an itch, it's usually we're watching more tape than the people in the stands and the people who kind of broadcasting the games too. So
Yeah.
if you got an itch, you kind of need to scratch and just go with your gut at times. And I felt like it's what we needed, and it worked out.
Yeah, I've adopted that too after, watching so many games, overtime games you guys have played in too. You've had them in state championship games too. I mean, you've played overtime games in the biggest scenarios possible and won them. I've kind of adopted that philosophy too. If you have the ball in your hands and you can make one play, win the game, in the game, do it. And you did it.
Definitely.
And that was, and it was funny. I mean, certainly as far as, magnitude of games, that win over Archer was big, but certainly you've played a lot more bigger games than that, since you've been the head coach. But that one really stood out too. I thought that was a big one for you.
Two that popped out. One that makes sense. It was the Mill Creek game. That's the biggest crowd in the history of that place. And
Oh yeah,
you got Caleb Downs on one side, Justice Haynes with us. Just
we were there for
players
that one
everywhere
too.
that are playing on Saturdays right now. That was a great atmosphere. But also, I think it was 2008 or 9. I can't remember. We played North Hall. And at that time, that was the biggest game. And we had just moved up to the region with them, and they brought a lot of people down. That's the first time I saw that visitor side like completely full. And that atmosphere, it was early in the season too, because I remember the sun was still out when we started. And it was electric that night. That was a fun night.
The Caleb Downs and Justice Haynes game. How many head coaches? I mean, big time head coaches. We're talking about national championship head coaches were on the sideline that night.
Yeah, I mean Ryan Day, Kirby Smart. I can't even remember all of them. It was
I
at
know
least
those two
four
were
of them
there for
that
sure.
night.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were there for sure.
Kirby, I
But
think
it was
he showed up in a helicopter for that one, I believe.
yes.
It was
It
a
was a
big
great
deal.
night.
It was a great night and huge crowd, and another one of those games. Like I said, I've been there for a lot of the highest highs. Not many lows, but some some of the highest highs. It's been a pleasure, that's for sure. Let's talk a little bit before we go about your 2025 team and your quarterback. You bring back Raiola this year.
Uh,
Dayton following in Dylan's footsteps. You bring him back. And I thought we really saw him grow in his junior season and kind of develop into his own guy, become his own man.
Definitely. I mean, he grew up a bunch this past season. You know, he's kind of been with his brother the whole time in high school and kind of being his backup and everything. So finally getting a chance to take the helm and do it his own way. You know what I mean? Obviously, playing the level of football that we play here in Georgia is no easy game, you know, the whole season. So everybody thinks just because names and just because who we are, we're going to go out there and roll over everybody. But everybody else is good. Everybody else has coaches that watch as much film as we do, and they're ready to exploit weaknesses or try to find ways to beat us. But he really grew up over the full season and has grown a bunch, you know, throughout the off season, the spring, and the summer so far. So I'm excited to see what he's going to bring to the table with his second year, with a full year of experience under his belt.
At the running back position, Ty Green, two-way guy, Dylan NASCAR McCoy, two-way guy. You know, they're coming back, and you had a great running back room last year, and you've always had a great deep running back room. I thought last year maybe among the deepest running back rooms you've ever had. Will those guys, will they carry the ball more this year now that some of the guys in front of them, Ethan Irvin and Jason and Baker have Justin Baker have gone on to play college football? Do they carry the ball more this year? Do you just have some other guys funneling in behind them and they kind of remain in that two-way role on defense and offense?
Yeah, definitely those two will. Ty's definitely going to play a good amount of defense for us. Dylan, played a lot for us last year. I've got a lot of talented young, outside backer safeties that kind of take most of his snaps on defense, hopefully. If they develop, throughout the rest of the summer and early in the season. But yeah, we have, a couple extra guys that have done a really, really good job, and we feel really good about their chances to help us toting the rock as well. Jameer Cantrell, Silas Knuckles, it's
Coach, you just keep rolling them in there.
Yeah,
you keep rolling them in there. It's amazing.
That's one thing they know. We like to share the balls, run it just because we feel like they're fresh. And you just said Justin Baker. I mean, he did cross the 1,000-yard mark last year, but we had Ethan Irvin that was not. He had a great year and he was close. He was about 9 something or 9 high 8s, but he went to FAU. We've always done that. We've always shared it, and one might get 1,000, two might get 1,000, whatever it is, but they know that they had 5 to 6 more carries a game that the other guy didn't get, that they could get those same yards, so they still get a chance to show what they need to show and also be fresh each game and throughout the whole year, because they're not running the ball 25 times a game.
If I counted right, you have 3 starters back on the offensive line, led by Graham Houston, who's committed to the University of Georgia. It's been fun to watch Graham develop, and he has really become a big-time offensive lineman over the last couple of years, and now goes into his senior season.
Yeah, Graham's doing a great job being a leader, and just the amount of growth that he had from, midsummer last year throughout the season, and he's continuously been one of the hardest workers in the weight room, and leading his teammates, trying to get the best out of them, and sometimes he does it in a forceful way, which I like. I think he's a loud kid, and he's going to call people out the way they need to be called out, but he also is going to put his arm around them as he walks out the field with a young lineman that he's trying to coach up. They might be mad at him because he's coaching them just as hard as Coach Winsley would, but he does know how to come back to him and say, hey, man, I see what you can be. I was that guy a year ago, and I didn't want to do this way, and just trying to figure out a way to breathe some confidence into these guys, because he knows that we're going to need them down the stretch.
I think he's going to fit in great at the University of Georgia. He's just they got that mentality of a Bulldogs, offensive lineman. After he gets done, in your mind, hopefully leading you to a state championship there on the Wolves offensive line this year. How about over there on the defensive side of the ball? For me, Bryce Perry Wright, it starts with this guy. What I love about Bryce Perry Wright, who just recently, last week or so, committed to Texas A&M, is he dominates. And I've seen a lot of guys who are 5 stars, who are who are ranked 2, 3 at their position in the country. They don't necessarily dominate. I'll call an entire game, and I won't ever remember calling their name. That's never the case with Bryce Perry Wright. I always end up calling his name a lot.
Yeah, I mean Bryce is a different breed. He's more of a quiet leader. You know what I mean? He does the work, and he's first in line, and he's gonna make plays every game. But you wouldn't even know he's out there practice at times until you know push him or mess with him a little bit. You know what I mean? To get him to laugh and joke around. But his teammates love him. They follow him and they follow his effort. Dylan McCoy's the same way. Dylan's coming out of his shell as far as being a vocal leader. But you know Bryce is always going to be. We're going to get the job done today, and he finds a way to make plays every Friday night. But you're right; it starts with him. He's got a bunch of guys right up front to help him out. And I've got a lot of names of young guys that have had great summers, and some of them are older too. Some seniors that have been role players and backups, played a little JV, as juniors, just to get some snaps in, that type of stuff. Have really, really done a great job on the defensive front this summer, and I'm excited to see what that group's going to produce this year.
And Trey Quinn joined your program from Greater Atlanta Christian, and I guess he'll be a defensive end or an outside linebacker. I'm not sure, but how's your linebacking core? You can talk a little about Dre and what he brings to the program, and also your linebacking core.
Yeah, Dre's a very humble kid. He's like breath of fresh air as far as a kid, kind of like a Justice Haynes that came to us kind of late in the game and just fit into the culture really, really well. And we're full of hybrids like Bryce himself. Like we'll put Bryce at nose, we'll put him at three techniques. Sometimes we'll put him on the edge, and Dre's the same way. He can play any of those positions and play a little outside linebacker, but we're going to use him getting after the passer as much as we possibly can, as well as those other guys, young guys coming behind him, Christian Webb Scott, and we got some older guys, Zion Binyard and Rhett Cofield, those D linemen. And I'm not going to say them all. Those most of my seniors, I'm trying to say, and Christian being a young guy. But they'll help us out a little bit rushing the passer. Luke Neighbors is another good pass rusher. That's a long outside linebacker type body, but he's been more defensive front. We did lose a lot of our starting, all four starting linebackers, but
that's why I asked about them.
Yeah, but Deion Miller and Cannon Nelson got a lot of reps last year. They're more of interior guys, and Ethan Hauser has had a great offseason. He really plays safety, but he's a big body kid and kind of playing that position that Perlotti played last year at our star position, to the field, covering people a little bit, blitzing a little bit, but just being a long body out there. And I'll tell you what, one young guy that I'm very proud of. I mean, C.J. Sibley's in that equation. We got some really good players in that equation that we like, and they're going to have a great season. But Joshua Eccles, he's a rising junior. He backed up, Kenyon last year, like 2 or 3 behind Kenyon. Rivera last year, but he has had one of the best off seasons I've seen in a long time of a young guy picking up, knowing exactly what to do, can play multiple positions. I'm excited to see what he's going to do for us this year.
Excited to see what all those guys do. All those names that you mentioned, I recognize, had them on the depth chart, and didn't necessarily see them play a whole lot last year. But as you typically do, you do get them in the game at some point, and they'll make a play or two. So it'll be interesting to see now that their roles have increased because of graduation, ahead of them, to see how they do. So excited about that. How about, before we go, last question, your thoughts on playing Milton? You open up with the 5A state champions, back-to-back state champions. They were 7A, then 5A. They lost a lot, but it's still Milton, and that's the team you opened up with last year in the big thunderstorm. Then we ended up playing until past 1 o'clock in the morning. Your thoughts on playing, Milton in the opener?
I mean, I know Coach Reeves. I know how they do things around there, so they're going to be prepared. You can sit there and say, like I said, on paper, they lost this and lost that or whatever, but they're a good bunch of coaches, and they know what they're doing. So we're going to be preparing as hard as we ever have to play a really good game, a really good team in that stadium on national TV. And our kids know it. They know what their track record is, for the last couple of years, and they know what's at stake. It's a first game of the season, but you still want to start off the right way in our home stadium and against a really, really good football team. It's going to be fun that night, but I do believe they'll be ready, just like we'll be ready, and it's going to be a fun atmosphere.
Well, Coach, thanks a lot for being with us. It really starts to amp up now that we're in the month of July, and we certainly look forward to covering the Buford Wolves coming up during the 2025 season. Expect to see you guys a bunch of times during the regular season. Thanks a lot.
No problem. Anytime.
Great to visit with Coach App. Always is good to talk to Coach App. And best of luck to him and the Buford Wolves as they try to get back in the state championship winner's circle here in 2025. As we mentioned, it's hard to think about it now. Back when he started as a head coach, there's some questions. Is this going to work out? He'd been a long-time assistant, had been passed over for the head coaching job, and then finally got the opportunity, and he has certainly proven to be great at it. The one thing is he's had to try to do that none of his predecessors were required to do is win at the highest level. Buford, now up at 6A, is the highest level in high school football. They'd never played there under any of their other coaches. So still trying to win that first state championship at the highest level in the state of Georgia, and it's not an easy thing to do. All right, remember, like, subscribe, and follow. Let's hop back into the show. We got a lot more recruiting news to get to, and we already covered it earlier in the show. We won't go back and do that again, but easily the biggest recruiting news of this cycle, if you will, since the last podcast, was the commitment of Grayson 5-star Tyler Atkinson to Texas. I know he broke the hearts of a lot of Georgia Bulldogs fans when he picked up that Texas hat on the Pat McAfee show, but he's not the only one we're going to talk about this week, so let's take a look at some of the rest of the most recent top college football commitments from the state of Georgia since my last podcast, and all totaled, including Atkinson, we've had 9 4-stars and 3 5-stars make decisions. Think about that for a moment. That shows you just how deep the state of Georgia is. That's a less than 2-week period in which we've had 9 4-stars and 3 5-stars out of the state of Georgia commit. For some states, that's an entire, summer. And for some states, that's more than an entire year. Georgia's so wonderfully deep in high school football talent, which is what makes calling high school football here in the state of Georgia so much fun. But let's count down the rest of those that we were just talking about, and we'll start with number 11, and that's Woodward Academy 4-star Blake Stewart, committed to Clemson. Stewart rated as high as the number 10 safety in the country by Rivals in 2026. Blake picked the Tigers over 40-plus offers, including Vandy, Miami, and Michigan. Number 10 on the list, Noonan 4-star Rodney Colton, chose Colorado, going to play for primetime. Colton is rated as high as the number 16 linebacker in 2026 in the On3 industry rankings. Rodney chose the Buffaloes over 30-plus offers, including UCLA, Penn State, Florida State, and Ole Miss. Think about that for a moment, the diversity of that Final Five for him. UCLA, West Coast, Big Ten, Penn State, Northeast, Big Ten, Florida State, ACC, Ole Miss, SEC. I have to think that NIL, and not saying this with Rodney, but with all prospects, has opened up the door for them to be recruited over the entire country. Not that players weren't recruited over the entire country in the past. I just think there's more of it now. I think that's the case. Number 9, Gainesville 4-star Kareem Hughley, the only junior on our list, rated as high as the number 4 dual-threat quarterback in the country for the class of 2027, which means he still has 2 high school football seasons to go. He picked Clemson over 15-plus offers. And, of course, we saw him on GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia put on an absolute show in the Red Elephants shootout loss to Roswell. Unfortunately for them, it was a loss, but it was a great game. Probably our best game of the regular season just from an excitement standpoint. And at that time, Kareem Hughley was still a relative unknown as a sophomore, but that is no longer the case. So just imagine he's got 2 seasons left, and because he's got 2 seasons left, Gainesville is definitely in the hunt for the state championship for the next 2 seasons, if not longer, of course, with Josh Niblett as their head coach. Number 8 on the list, Buford 4-star athlete Tyreek Green. Ty is rated as high as the number 6 athlete in the country by ESPN. We just talked about him with Coach App earlier here in the podcast. He's probably going to end up playing safety in college, but I love him as a running back as well. He does both so extremely well for the Wolves. And, they'll play him some in the defensive backfield, and then they'll pop him in there in that second and third quarter, man, and he just steamrolls the opponents from the running back position. He picked the Bulldogs over 50-plus offers, including Auburn and Miami. Brunswick 4-star Hezzy Kent this is a really interesting prospect. At 6'6", 320 pounds, he is a guy, 3 of the recruiting services have him rated as an offensive tackle. But 24/7 Sports rates him as an athlete, and here's why. He's a guy that touches the ball a lot in the Brunswick offense, or at least he has in the past. He's rushed for close to 600 yards in his career, and he's caught 59 passes for close to 1,400 yards in his career, scored 24 touchdowns in his high school career. That does not sound like an offensive tackle to me. But his size at 6'6", 320 indicates that he probably is. Even if he isn't right now, he probably will be in college, and who knows, maybe the NFL with size like that and athleticism like he has. 24/7 Sports Composite has him rated as the number 9 athlete in the country. His highest offensive tackle rating is number 14 in the country by the On3 industry rankings. Wherever he plays, he's great. Picked the Gators over 35-plus offers, including Miami, Texas, and Florida State. Number 6 on the list, Lee County 4-star Laziah Jackson, rated as high as the number 13 cornerback in 2026. Laziah committed to Stanford over 30-plus offers, including Georgia Tech, Florida State, and Alabama. He's 6'3", 175, and plays cornerback. And you got to think, with size like that, does he stay a cornerback as he just gets older and bigger and stronger physically? Does he become a safety or maybe even a linebacker with that kind of build? 54 tackles, 4 TFL, 2 quarterback sacks, and interception during his junior season for the Trojans. As they reach the 5A semifinals, they'll be at least back in the mix for that, if not more, here in 2025. Number 5 on the list, Southwest DeKalb 4-star Ernest Rankins, rated as high as the number 10 defensive lineman in 2026, picked Florida State over 30-plus offers, including Auburn, has 36 total tackles, 11.5 TFL, 4.5 quarterback sacks as a junior for the Panthers in 2024. Number 4, Carrollton 4-star Dorian Barney, rated as high as the number 9 cornerback by Rivals in 2026. He picked Michigan over 50-plus offers, including Penn State, Georgia Tech, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss. He was first committed to Alabama before his junior season, and then he decommitted last November. He's long at 6'1", 180, and part of a fantastic secondary that helped get the Trojans to the 6A finals last season. Finished the season with 4 interceptions last year. They'll be counting on him even more this year with all of that secondary, except for him graduated off that state finals team of a year ago. Number 3, Cal 4-star Braden Rouse, rated as high as the number 3 linebacker by Rivals in 2026. Committed to Tennessee over 45-plus offers, including Alabama, Michigan, and Texas. First of 2 Cal players to commit to the Vols in this class. He's joined by Longhorns 3-star safety Joel Kambe. So those 2 guys from the Longhorns, Cal Longhorns, going to Tennessee. Rouse had 111 total tackles, 15 TFL, 3.5 quarterback sacks, and an interception as a junior in 2024. And he's also a threat on offense as well, with over 350 yards receiving last year and 8 touchdowns. He's one of the reasons, despite what Coach Bobby may say, I believe Cal will be in the mix for the 4A state championship this year in 2025. And a little inside joke there, I had mentioned earlier in the summer on social media, I thought Cal was going to be in the mix for a state championship, and Bobby said, please don't rank us high. We're no good, blah, blah, blah. Trust me, they're not no good. They're going to be in the mix, even though Bobby might not want us to talk about them right now, and that's understandable. Most coaches don't like that kind of stuff. Number 2, Buford 5-star Bryce Perry Wright, rated as high as the number 3 defensive lineman in the country in the 2024 Sports Composite. Committed to Texas A&M over 40-plus offers, including Auburn, Clemson, Miami, and Texas. Seen him numerous times on GPB Sports Football Fridays in Georgia. Thing that stands out for me about Bryce Perry Wright is he always dominates. Lives up to the ranking. He's the cousin of former Atlanta Falcons star defensive lineman Grady Jarrett. So many times on games that I call, we'll have a guy that's rated in the top 5 at his particular position. And then you get to the end of the game, and you don't really ever remember calling the guy's name, especially for a defensive player. That's not the case with Bryce Perry Wright. Regardless of what the offense tries to do, Bryce Perry Wright always manifests himself in the game. He always is present in the game. and making big-time plays. 109 career total tackles, 22 TFL, and 17.5 quarterback sacks. And number one on the list, number one behind Tyler Atkinson, but close behind, Bowdon 5-star Kaiden Prothro, committed to Georgia over the weekend. Prothro rated as high as the number one tight end in the country by ESPN. Kaiden chose the Bulldogs over close to 40 offers, including Alabama, Auburn, Florida, and Texas. We've seen him the last 3 years leading the Red Devils to 3 straight state championships, and this year they'll be going for number 4 in a row, something that only 2 other programs of state history have done. Only West Rome and Buford have done that. And Prothro is a big reason why. At 6'6", he is impossible. He's an impossible matchup for high school defenses, much less defenses playing 1A football here in the state of Georgia. In 3 high school football seasons so far, has 199 catches, 2,250 yards receiving, and 39 touchdowns. So like, follow, subscribe. Before we wrap up this podcast for the week, going to delve into the preseason private rankings and also the all-state team for the preseason private schools. And we'll go in inverse order on the rankings to kind of create a little drama here. Number 10 on the list, Holy Innocents. You know, they were only 5-6 last season with a very young team in Coach Nick Parada's first season. But the Bears are bringing just about all their production back from 2024 with a year under their belts. And this is a program that's always been really good. So I believe they're ready to get back to where they were. Top returning players, offense, you got rising sophomore quarterback Ryan Woods. You have 3-star tight end Khalid Worthy, plus added North Cobb Christian transfer running back Denon Stevens. And on defense, they got linebacker Jordan Mays. They also have punter Jonathan Gentry, who's committed to Georgia Tech, and he's one of the best punters in the entire country, although I'm sure they hope to let him be a spectator on the sidelines this season. Number 9 on the list, Greater Atlanta Christian, looking to rebound from a 4-7 season. So another team that had a losing record last year that I got in my top 10. Coach Tim Hardy's done a great job there, though. They've gotten the Spartans to the state finals twice with 5 semifinal finishes in his 13 seasons. Top returning players, offense, you got senior wide receiver Jack Griggs. And on defense, you got senior linebacker Reed Voiles. Number 8 on the list, Wesleyan, coming off a second straight 10-3 quarterfinal finish under Coach Franklin Pridgeon. Got to the state finals in 2019. They must overcome the graduation of quarterback Ben Brown. That's not going to be an easy thing to do. Their top returning players, offense, 3-star offensive lineman Eli Raquel, who's committed to North Carolina, wide receiver Carter Hayes, and safety Bryce Gillis. Number 7, Aquinas, 8-5 quarterfinal finish last year under Coach James Leonard. That was the Fighting Irish best season since they reached the state finals in 2016. They must also replace their star quarterback of the last couple of years, quarterback Jim Franklin. But they do have a player that you're going to keep an eye on. Rising sophomore 2-way star Eli Hutchison. He rushed for over 650 yards as a freshman last year and had 122 total tackles, 17 TFL, and 3 interceptions. He's joined by senior wide receiver Jack Rhodes and junior defensive lineman Jaden Worth. Both of those guys are all-state selections. More on them in a moment. Number 6, Calvary Day. New era for the Cavaliers, following an incredible 16-year run by Coach Mark Stroud, who had 148 wins, 6 region titles, 6 quarterfinal finishes, including 2024, 3 semifinal finishes, and a 2013 state finals appearance. Their top returning players on offense, preseason all-state quarterback junior James Mobley. Defense, you got juniors Braxton Bell and Emerson Lewis. They should be really good. Number 5, Prince Avenue. New era for the Wolverines as well. They're replacing their head coach. OC John Rick moves up and takes over for Greg Vandergriff, who left for Knoxville, Tennessee. He led Prince to 5 straight state finals and 3 state championships during that run. And so Coach Rick, the younger Coach Rick, has some big shoes to fill. He is indeed the son of legendary Georgia coach Mark Rick. Prince Avenue was a runner-up in 2024. Their offense led by 4-star running back Andrew Beard and 3-star quarterback Ben Musser, who also made the All-State team. Both those guys make the All-State team. More on that in a moment. Defense, linebacker Colin Durning and safety Judd Shoemaker. Number 4, Athens Academy. Coming off a 10-1 season for Coach Josh Alexander's team last year, which was their best season since their 3-year run, 27-19, when they went 37-3 and played in back-to-back state finals. Their top returning players, junior wide receiver defensive back Keon Standifer, who I saw a couple of years ago in the Georgia Elite Classic, when I was calling play-by-play for that. He's a fabulous player. I saw him as a 7th or 8th grader, and he was outstanding then. Now, he's phenomenal. Defense, you got senior Cash Cowart coming back. Number 3, Hebron Christian, the defending state champions. They're coming off their first ever state championship, but they will enter 2025 with a new head coach. Jonathan Guest left for Greenville, South Carolina, and Southside Christian, and Kenny Dallas arrives from Trinity Christian, where he won the 2021 state title. Top returners offense, you got 3-star offensive lineman Fletcher Turk, running back Devon Caldwell, and wide receiver Jarvis Matherin. Defense, you got safety Max Steven and defensive end Fred Moses, who had a spectacular freshman season. So he's all-state going into his sophomore year. That's pretty good. But more on those guys in just a moment. So, Prince Avenue, who played in the state finals, they stayed within the family and hired Rick. Hebron Christian didn't stay within the family, but they stayed within the family of state championship coaches when they hired Dallas. Number 2, Fellowship Christian. Is this the year the Paladins break through under Coach John Thompson? Fellowship has been so close. 7 straight seasons of getting to at least the quarterfinals. Got to the finals in 2016 before this 7-straight-year run began. Top returners on offense, their all-state quarterback candidate Jonathan Granby, and 3-star running back and Duke commit C.J. Givers. And number 1 on the list, Savannah Christian. They got to the state finals in 2023 under Coach Baker Woodward, and then they were ranked number 1 most of the season in 2024, but got knocked out of the playoffs in the quarterfinals. Their top returners, quarterback Blaze Thomas and 3-star offensive lineman Jordan Dillon. Defense, they did lose one of the top players in the country, and in some cases, the number 1 player in the country, depending on what rankings you're looking at, in edge rusher LaDamian Guyton, who transferred to Benedictine there in Savannah. So he'll be impossible to replace. I mean, let's don't pretend. But defensive lineman Isaiah Redmond, who's all-state, is back, and so is linebacker John Gross. So once again, your preseason private rankings: Savannah Christian, number 1, number 2, Fellowship Christian, number 3, Hebron Christian, number 4, Athens Academy, Prince Avenue 5th, Calvary Day number 6, Aquinas 7th, Wesleyan at number 8, Greater Atlanta Christian number 9, and Holy Innocents number 10. All right, let's take a look at the all-state team for the private 1A through 3A classification. Pro-style quarterback James Mobley of Calvary Day threw for over 2,500 yards last year, 36 touchdowns and just 3 interceptions. Phenomenal. Dual threat quarterback Ben Musser of Prince Avenue, 3-star quarterback, over 1,400 yards passing, 15 touchdowns, plus 768 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns. His backfield mate, Andrew Beard of Prince Avenue, starts out the running back core, 4-star, number 15 running back in 2027. Close to 1,400 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns last year. C.J. Givers from Fellowship Christian, 3-star running back committed to Duke, 1,400 yards rushing, 21 touchdowns. In the wide receiver core, you got Keon Standifer of Athens Academy, 46 catches, almost 1,300 yards, 19 touchdowns, and a 2-way star, had 5 interceptions in the secondary. Jarvis Matherin of Hebron Christian, 1,100-plus yards receiving, 12 touchdowns. He also doubles up as our private all-state kick returner. Jack Rhodes from Aquinas, he's committed to Navy, 122 career receptions for him, close to 2,200 yards and 27 career touchdowns. Our all-state tight ends, Bryce Williamson of Prince Avenue, 375 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns last year. He's a 3-star tight end. He's committed to App State. And also Khalid Worthy of Holy Innocents, who we mentioned earlier, 3-star tight end. He had 391 receiving yards last year and 5 touchdowns. I couldn't separate the two, so I put both of them on the all-state team. Offensive lineman Fletcher Turk, Hebron Christian, 3-star offensive tackle. Jordan Dillon, Savannah Christian, 3-star interior offensive lineman. Eli Raquel, 3-star offensive lineman committed to North Carolina. Lawson Bentley, Calvary Day, 6'4", 280 junior. He's the only junior on the list. And J.T. Howell of Savannah Christian, 6'2", 300 senior. And on defense, start with the defensive line. Jaden Worth of Aquinas, rising junior, 286 career total tackles, 74 TFL, and 27 quarterback sacks. You got his teammate Lucas Inman on the team as well, 72 total tackles, 5 TFL, and 5 quarterback sacks last season. Isaiah Redmond, Savannah Christian, I mentioned him earlier, 177 total tackles, 24 TFL, and 10.5 quarterback sacks going into his senior season. And then the youngster, Fred Moses from Hebron, 48 total tackles, 16 TFL, 5 quarterback sacks as a freshman. He did all that as a ninth grader for the state champions. Linebacking core, Brady Robinson, Landmark Christian, 161 career total tackles, 20 TFL. Eli Hutchinson, the two-way star I was talking about earlier, 122 total tackles and 17 TFL as a freshman. Hayes Beaver from Savannah Country Day, 193 career total tackles, 7.5 TFL. And William Wright, Wesleyan, 162 career total tackles and 18 TFL. The All-State secondary, Max Steve from Hebron, 247 career total tackles, 14 TFL. Simon Kofranseco of Kings Ridge Christian, 63 tackles, 4.5 TFL, and 5 interceptions last season. Brexton Bell from Calvary Day, 130 career total tackles and 20 TFL. And Emerson Lewis, Calvary Day, 44 tackles, 4.5 TFL, and 5 interceptions last season. And the special teamers on the private All-State team, Cash Ramirez, the kicker from Savannah Country Day. He's 14 for 23 in his career with a long of 47. And the aforementioned Jonathan Gentry from Holy Innocents, who's a Coles kicking 5-star punter, 4-star kicker, committed to Georgia Tech. All right, that'll do it. That'll wrap up this edition of the Matt Stewart Sports High School Football Podcast. Remember, like, subscribe, follow so that you get notification when the next podcast drops. And coming up on the next podcast, we'll have another fantastic interview with one of the top coaches in the state, or maybe a top player. Still working on that. We'll figure that out. And also we'll be dropping the 2A preseason rankings and the 2A preseason All-State team on the next podcast. So make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and we'll see you then. Thanks for joining.